We tell you how to travel, where to eat, what to do, and how to make the most of your El Salvador experience. In this video, we take you to the Ruta de las Flores in El Salvador, a beautiful collection of villages and towns along a picturesque route of the flowers, famous for its coffee, its ancient Mayan temples, churches, and did we say coffee? Festivals, gastronomical festivals, food festivals, markets, nightlife, and just friendly, happy people. Whether it's waterfalls or hot water pools, the Ruta de las Flores has something for everyone. Hello from the Ruta de Flores, or the Route of the Flowers, which is an area in El Salvador which consists of a few different villages that are known for blossoming different varieties of flowers, and also seem to be quite good places for tourism, for coffee, for food, and for drink. We came to El Salvador from Guatemala, and we went straight to Santa Ana, where we spent about 4 nights. From there, we took an Uber to one of the villages, Juayúa, which is basically, was pronounced Juayu or Juayúa, but it's spelled completely differently. But when you Google it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And we plan to stay in Juayu for 7 nights. So we've stayed already 4 nights, and we'll be staying for a few more nights over there. And Juayu is a small village. It's actually off the path, off the main road, kind of one of the smaller villages next to Santa Ana. It took about an hour to get there by Uber, cost us about $20, but you can take a bus as well from Santa Ana to get there. It's a quiet little village, lot typical local food and local drink, small restaurants. You gotta go find what you want to eat, and hope and pray that it's open. But what Juayúa is famous for is its festival of gastronomica, which happens on a Saturday and Sunday, every Saturday and Sunday usually. So it's not really a festival, it's more a collection of street side food. They take 2 streets and then they just put stalls selling different kind of food and drink over there, and it's a great vibe. So from around 12 o'clock people start coming there. It becomes really buzzy. There's food, there's drink, lots of barbecue related stuff, and lots of drinks, and sometimes it's quite difficult to understand what each of these drinks is, but then you have the usual pina coladas, you have the beers and the shakes and the juices and stuff like that. So that's on offer, and of course a lot of barbecue food is on offer. So everything from steak to chicken to fish to prawns, and then you can choose the kind of sides and accompaniments you want with it. Now, we had a great a great plate of food, some great drink, but overall, I mean, it's kind of the magnet for the village, so everybody comes there for that particular thing. But we found that the restaurants in the village itself, they serve equally good barbecue, and they serve equally good barbecue 7 days a week. You can eat it for both meals if you want it. So while we really enjoyed the festival for gastronomica over there, we kind of felt like either a lot of the local street food was misrepresented. So for example, we didn't see any pupusas. Like, how do you have a gastronomic festival with no pupusas? We didn't see any we saw one coffee place. We didn't see any frozen ices or anything like that. So it seemed like it was a very barbecue specific event, which is great, which is fine. I mean, it's been working for them, but I kind of feel like sooner or later people will realize that, hey, it's not really a festival, it's just barbecue food on the street. And the problem with that is you don't really know how good or bad it is. You're better off just going to a restaurant and eating the same food, sometimes even cheaper, in a better environment. And also very typical of El Salvador is that you won't get any knives and forks cutlery. You'll just get plastic knives and forks. And if anybody's ever tried to eat street barbecue meat with knives and forks that are made from very poor plastic, you realize that it's not really the bestest way of eating food. But anyway, so that was you know, you spend about 2-3 hours there. The ice cream, there's a small little shop next to Don Pollo, which is a small kind of a cheese shop, but they do some really good unusual ice creams, and that was the highlight for me, having some great ice cream. $1.25 for a nice scoop. We had that, and then after we'd done all the food, we decided to take a chicken bus to come to one of the villages. So we're right here in Ataco, and we're gonna just walk around here. We're gonna have a little bit of coffee. As you can see, mine, all the coffee purists are kind of swearing at me right now because I've taken a frappuccino, but it's super hot and I need something that can cool me down. But that's it. And there are fireworks happening over here at literally 4:30 in the evening, which doesn't make any sense because you can't really see the fireworks. Yeah, this is it. This is the Ruta de Flores in Ataco and Juayúa.
Dos melones, por el dólar, dos melones por el dólar. Mira qué melón más bonito, más hermoso te está llevando, mami. Belleza de melón, señora, belleza de melón, son dos por el dólar, son dos por el dólar. Póngase las pilas, mami, póngase las pilas. Esto es una sola pasada va a ser, esto ya se va a terminar, ya se va a acabar, señora. Mira qué melón más bonito, más hermoso te está llevando, mami. Belleza de melón, mamá, belleza de melón. No, mamá, este no es del verde, es del amarillito, señora. El melón del amarillito bien dulcito que te está llevando, mami.
So we visited the tourism office, this is right behind me. Really nice, definitely helpful, and you should really go there to get a whole lay of the land. It's fantastic. The guy will give you like a lot of tips, and it'll help you plan your trip a little bit better as well. Especially on a weekend, it's you know, they're very happy. They know all the villages around, what's important, what's to see, what's not to see. So really recommend the tourism office. Really friendly guys as well, not trying to sell you anything, which is really great. While you're at the Ruta de Flores, and especially when you're at Juayúa, one of the things that is a must-do, according to most people, is a trip to the waterfalls. And there are 2 different trips that you can do. One of them is called the Siete Waterfalls, or 7 Waterfall tour, which is basically you take a guide and he takes you to different waterfalls, and there's 7 of them. And then the other one is a group of 3 waterfalls called Chorros de la Calera. Usually some of the guides, what they do is they try and combine them together. So you do the 7 and then you plus do the 3, and it's a total of 10. And you can spend the whole kind of morning doing it. Now, the 7 waterfalls, from what we've spoken to fellow travelers, is slightly of a physical exercise. The first 3 ones are pretty easy to do, but then after that you have to climb into the waterfalls and climb up while the water is flowing down. And apparently there was some information about them being rappels and stuff. They don't exist anymore. You gotta literally hold and climb on the rocks. And some of the people got a real kick out of it, but most people we met it was pretty exhausting. And it's like 7 waterfalls, and you know, after the first 3-4 you're going to the same kind of another waterfall. So we decided not to do that. We decided just to do the set of 3, the Chorros de la Calera set of 3 waterfalls. Now, rumor had it, and this was true till about 7 months ago, that this was a slightly easier walk because you literally took a guide, and the guide would take you to the entrance of the waterfalls. It's a few stairs down, and it's a flat plane. You come to the largest waterfall, you can swim, and then you can go back. But the official entrance as of 2024 March is shut. So as in right now, according to this date, it's been shut for the last 6 months, which basically means that you cannot go to this waterfall directly from the entrance. And what that means is you need a guide. And guides, the easiest way to find guides if you're in the Juayúa is to go to the Office of Tourism and Information at the Central Square. And the gentleman there is really helpful. He has a lot of information, and you can also get guides for all the tours that you want to do. And the tour for the 7 waterfalls starts from there. The tour for these 3 waterfalls starts from there as well. And the tour price is between $5 and $12 or even $15, depending on who you ask. And we took a tour guide that we knew from our Airbnb host, and even though he told us like, hey, yeah, it's gonna be an easy walk, it was not an easy walk. It was not a very physical walk either. It was just a long and unruly walk, because since they've shut the front door of the front gate of the waterfall, you have to go through some coffee plantations. And essentially what you're doing is you're spending the first 25 minutes walking in through the town of Juayúa, and then about 10-15 minutes on super dusty path. So if you're wearing flip-flops, prepare your feet to be completely trashed with dust and your flip-flops completely dusty. Then you're gonna climb down, you're gonna hit another part where it's gonna be pretty flat, and then you're gonna go up and down some really not so well maintained paths. And so if you're not very comfortable going up and down uneven paths, don't think it's going to be that easy. Going down was quite a surprise for us because of course everybody told us, oh yeah, it's just a quick walk and blah blah blah. It's not a quick walk. It's a good hour and 10 minutes walk from the central square. Now you can cut it short if your guide agrees to bring you pretty much, I would say, 40 minutes of the way or 35 minutes of the way in a 4x4, because a lot of this walking that you're doing through Juayúa and through the dusty path and things like that is all on a path that goes to the coffee plantation. So you can actually take a 4x4 to the coffee plantation. The hike to the falls is more difficult than the hike back, even though it feels counterintuitive. But once you get to the waterfalls, it's really nice. There's a set of 3. You can kind of chill in the first one. It's not deep at all. The second one is not deep, not that deep, but bigger. And then the third one is the biggest, is deep, it's good for diving and jumping and stuff like that. But if you don't know how to swim, don't go there into the third one, because you don't feel your feet in pretty much 80% of the waterfall. But it's phenomenal. The water is super nice and cold and refreshing. There's no food or beverages available pretty much for the last 15 minutes of the walk. The first part that you're in the village, you can get some drinks and stuff. But it's a nice time to spend about 15, 20, 30 minutes there swimming, jumping. If you're in a bigger group, spend longer. It's a recommended trip to do, but understand that it's not what the rumors are, like, oh, it's just going to be like a nice flat walk. It's not. It's not as physical as the 7 waterfalls either. 2 or 3 tips. Make sure that you have plenty of water with you, because it does get quite exhausting and you'll be drinking water. Take some snacks if you want to eat all along the way. Lastly, if you can get like a stick to help you balance, is good. Even 1 stick is good, because in some places you have no path and nothing and you're holding onto trees to kind of go up and down. So a stick sometimes helps. And lastly, the shoes. Make sure you're wearing shoes that are appropriate for walking / hiking. You can wear open-toed steva sandals or like hiking sandals, but be prepared for them to get really dirty, because you're gonna get dust on the way there. You're gonna go into the water, your feet are not gonna dry, your sandals are gonna get wet, they're gonna lose a bit of the grip that you were gonna get on the way down. And then of course at the end of your hike, you're walking again in 10 to 15 minutes of dust, and so your feet are gonna get nice and crummy, and you're gonna bring all that dust back. Should you wear shoes? Probably, but I see the same problems with the shoes. My only suggestion would be to maybe have 2 pairs, like have a clean pair of shoes that you can keep at your hostel, so when you get to your hostel or your hotel, you have something clean to enter your room with. The earlier you go, the better. We left at 8 o'clock from Juayúa. We were there by 9:30, 9:15, well actually 9:30, and till about 10:15 we had the whole place to ourselves, and then we made it back by 11:30. So that's something that I recommend doing if you know how difficult or easy it is. And you can hope and pray for the official doors, the official entrance to open. And if it's open, then it's a definitely must do, and spend more time there. And like with a lot of the waterfalls in the region, you can find them on Google Maps, and you could be tempted to go there on your own. It's just not recommended. It's not recommended because a lot of these have like unmarked, pretty much all of them are unmarked paths. You wouldn't know which turn to go, left or right. And pretty much all of these are on private property. A lot of the guides, so it's recommended to take a guide. A guide is not going to cost you more than between $5 and $15, and it's not going to break the bank, honestly. Your hostel or your hotel will have cheaper rates for bigger groups. Firstly, it's good because you have somebody who can make sure you're a little bit safe, something happens to you. And secondly, there have been cases in a lot of different kind of areas where the landowners have then demanded money from people for trespassing on their property. It's not a very good thing to have in Central America. It's also the same case in Guatemala. We've read on some of the volcanoes and viewpoints, etc. So if you can go with a guide, good. The guides have arrangements, they have agreements, they know they're friends with the landowner, so it's okay. So not recommended to venture out by Google Maps. And another thing, a lot of things on Google Maps in Central America are just wrong. They're improperly placed. They don't exist in those plans anymore, including like big churches. Like they've been big churches we've had to report that have been said to be on the side of the road, and usually it's like restaurants that put them there so people get down from the bus and then they're stuck, and then they get to eat some food over there and they have to pay for the food, right? So Google Maps, I don't trust it as as much over here as I would in Europe, so also be aware of that.
Concepción de Ataco is one of the larger villages along the Ruta de las Flores. Along with having some great little streets to walk around, it's a fairly quaint little town. Concepción de Ataco is probably a good base for you if you're looking to stay somewhere longer or looking to split your time between two different towns or villages along the Ruta de las Flores. The village is known for its unusual and interesting souvenirs, and you also have this ability to take a double-decker kind of a bus which takes you all around the village. Overall, the village had a nice little vibe. It was a little bit more expensive than some of the surrounding villages, but it was very charming and gorgeous and definitely worth a day trip.
You can, from the bus stop, just walk 5 minutes to Finca El Carmen, which is a very traditional and one of the older fincas or plantations, coffee plantations in El Salvador, in this region actually. They tend to use a little bit more of the older technology. Their plants are a bit older, their machines are a bit older, and they do a lot more of the mass production. But they also process their own coffees, but they also do it for coffee growers who don't have the machinery. So it was quite nice to come here and do the tour. Well, we just walked in and we had to wait about 15 minutes for a tour to start. I suppose they start on the hour. If they have more people, they probably start, as and when they have enough people. And then you pay $7 to spend about an hour walking around, looking at the coffee, understanding the process. And then after that, you finish in their beautiful kind of hotel slash resort area with plenty of plants and animals, and you get to do some tasting. They only make you taste one type of coffee, which I feel is an opportunity wasted, because it would be really nice to taste like 3 different varieties to really get the difference between the natural, the different types of processes that they do. But it's okay, they only charge $7 per tour, which is, to be honest, quite reasonable. And the guide is pretty informative. Another day, another village. In another village on the Ruta de Flores, we're at Apaneca, which is one of the small villages similar to Juayúa on the Ruta de Flores. And look at that. Look at how gorgeous that is. And one of the really cool things about all these little villages is they all have one of these, or at least one of these. They have sometimes 2, 3 of these churches, cathedrals, whatever you want to call it, and they look beautiful. Look at how beautiful they look. They're completely white. And today we're gonna just spend the whole day driving around, trying to find coffee farms, trying to find things to do here. Let's see what we make of today. And what we did over there was just walk around. We got a cafe, we talked to local shopkeepers, we tried to kind of walk around the town, went inside the church, and it was quite interesting. It's a Sunday, so it's actually quite a nice vibe happening over there. There's a little plaza where you have lots of food and karaoke. So it was really nice to see that. It was really nice to see this kind of local, with a lot of local crowd, not too many tourists from what we could see, which was really, really good. I have to admit though that Apaneca was probably one of the more expensive villages, probably the most expensive village we've seen in El Salvador. So we're looking to pay something around like $9 for a sandwich or a burger, to paying about $3.50 for a cappuccino, which might be okay, but it's actually what we would pay. It's actually more than what you would normally pay even in Antigua in Guatemala, which was one of the most expensive cities we kind of visited in our travels so far out of Mexico. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, that it's a slightly more expensive village. A lot of the activities are more expensive as well. Spend a half a day, go eat some food. And of course, this is the price. We were talking about cafes. Of course, if you go to the local plaza and get food, it's still a little bit more expensive, but it's okay. We were also recommended by one of the coffee shops to go visit another farm called Sea Cafe, or the brand of the cafe is called Sea Cafe, and the name of the farm is Beneficio San Pedro near Apaneca. So we managed to get in touch with them. They're known really well for their specialty coffee. They grow very high standard of coffee, and they have You know, their coffee beans, if you want, you can go on their website and have a look. Are actually auctioned off at a pretty high price. So they're known for good coffee, for specialty coffee. So we wanted to go check out and see the difference between them. It's difficult to get in touch with them because you have to go on their website, you have to fill up a form. It's very non-intuitive. It literally is like they're designed this for not casual, oh, we gotta go tick box kind of people. You have to go fill up the form, break down on communication, get in touch on Instagram, wait for a few days, get a response. And we were lucky that firstly we managed to get a response, secondly they managed to find us a spot because we were booked out, and we managed to go do a tour. Now tours over there can range between $20 and $30 per person, but it's a 3-hour tour, up to 2.5-3 hour tour, rather than what some of the other fincas do, which is a 1-hour tour, which is what we did at Villa Carmen, which was a 1-hour tour for $7. So slightly more expensive, but it's a lot more in depth. And we were lucky we got a tour from the tastemaster, who actually grades all the coffee that they produce and they do for other fincas, Jessica, and she was phenomenal in her knowledge of the coffee. We had a great time, right from visiting the coffee plants, the types of coffees, you know, trying to understand different processes, and then to go and see all this coffee being dried, being processed, being, you know, developed. Firstly, everything done manually. Secondly, the amount of time it takes. So imagine when you're drinking your next cup of coffee, those 13 to 21 grams of what you're drinking, how many hands have spent hours, labored over them to get that to the right place at the right time, to the right processes. So it really gave a really interesting view of how coffee is made. We kind of saw that at Villa Carmen as well, but here it was quite interesting because we met the people who were gathering it, right? So you kind of saw everything being done manually. So recommend it highly if you're into coffee, really understand coffee. They do tours in English and Spanish both, and then they do a tasting of the coffees, up to 3 coffees in the $20, and then they can do cupping as well, which of course brings out some more of their interesting coffees, and that's $30 because obviously it's a more scientific and more prepared affair. So you gotta let them know whether you want to do a tasting or a cupping, but definitely do it. And of course the machines they were using were slightly newer, but it was just good to see the scale and, you know, the kind of focus on specialty coffees, on the process, on different processes. So that was definitely there, and it's another reason to visit Apaneca, which is a small village. And from Apaneca you can take a tuk-tuk should cost about $1 to $2 to take you to this particular finca, and then another $2 back. So really comfortable, really fun afternoon out, 3 hours well spent in coffee. Another must-do while you're at the Ruta de Flores, and it's quite unlike some of the villages that you're going to visit or stay, kind of like the oxymoron of the Ruta de Flores is a village called Nahuizalco. The Nahuizalco kind of pueblo is part of the Ruta de Flores and is famous for its night market. And the reason it's an oxymoron is because most of the villages, most of the places that you will visit, Ataco, Juayúa, all of these places, they kind of shut around 8:30. You won't have too many food options and things like that. But this particular village, Nahuizalco, is famous for its night market. The night market works pretty much all the days, but it's especially good on a Saturday and on a Sunday night. And we were told that Sunday night is the best. So if you're there on a Sunday, make sure you take the bus to the market. It's usually about 20 minutes. You can get there by 6:30-ish it starts. You can get there about 7. And then it's got a lot of, it's got music, it's got lots of food. In fact, I felt it had more food than the Gastronomica Festival of Juayúa. In fact, I found that most of the other villages had more food than the Juayúa Gastronomica Festival, and more variety as well. But this one was particularly good because all of the food was, quite different varieties. You had everything from street sellers to restaurants to like small, everything from tacos to papusas to local food to anything that you would want. And the vibe was really happening, like a really good vibe on a night. it's something that we missed in quite a lot of the other villages. So definitely make it there. To make it back, you need to figure out a way. Either you try and make it back on the last bus, which is between 8 and 8:30, or you can agree with a taxi guy or a private person. Usually what you can do, and what we did, was we just went and spoke to a police officer or to a traffic policeman and said, hey, we need to get back to Juayúa, which is where we were staying. Can you tell us how we can get back without a bus? And eventually when we got back around 8:30 after visiting all the market, we knew we'd missed the bus. The police person said, hey, you know, there might be two guys who might be happy to take you there, and we agreed a fee with them, which was pretty good. I mean, between $5 and $10 you can get back, and if you're 2 or 3 people, it's actually pretty good, pretty reasonable. It's a pretty long way at night, and the person has to come back. So don't fret too much about the trip back. It's a problem, but if you're smart, you'll figure it out. And go eat there. Go eat some great food, enjoy the vibe, buy some souvenirs, buy some trinkets. It's a great trip to be had. Another side trip that you can do on the Ruta de Flores is to come to this beautiful pyramid. Now, when we think of pyramids, we think of Egypt, sometimes think of Machu Picchu, or sometimes Mexico, but they have pyramids in El Salvador as well. And this one's actually quite interesting because you can climb to the top of some of the structures. This is called a Tazumal Archaeological Park. It's in between Santa Ana and the other big city that we have. You can get to it by bus. It's about a 10-15 minute walk from the main road, or you can take a tuk-tuk if you can find one, and you can come here and pay a $5 entry fee if you're a foreigner, $2 if you're Salvadorian, $1 if you're Salvadorian, and $3 if you're from Central America. It's really nice, really simple, really green. There's a lot of trees over here as well, so if it does get hot, you can seek shelter. It's really well signposted with information in English and Spanish. But of course, I mean, imagine like you're here, compare this to, you know, Chichen Itza or something else in Mexico where it's like hundreds and thousands of people. This you have to yourself. Now, this is a pyramid, and it's supposedly that this is only half excavated from the lava flows. Probably extends further below our feet as well, which we don't really know how deep. But I mean, think about this. This is 1800 years old, and you're getting to see it, view it, in some cases touch it quite carefully. So really recommend coming over here. Nobody told us, none of the videos online tell you about this place, and it's quite interesting. They don't mention it. They mention everything else: thermal pools, the gastronomical festival, the night market. And I think this is probably something that is quite worth coming to. So definitely make a trip. Yo, what's with people in El Salvador just throwing garbage everywhere? Like, we've seen this in Guatemala as well. We now see it in El Salvador. Like, you're in a bus, just whole bags of trash is thrown out the window. Like, don't do this, guys. Like, this is your country. This is beautiful, and is turning into trash. Seriously, look all around the main roads. It's just garbage. It's just plastic. And you gotta look to like Bali. You gotta look at Boracay. They had to shut down the entire beaches, entire like parts of the tourism complex because of the amount of garbage over there. And it's crazy that there's so much garbage. The people lost their salaries, lost their livelihood for 2 years while they replenished and they recovered it. You don't want that here. There's still time. Don't like throw crap out of the window. Don't throw trash out of the buses. I mean, the amount of plastic you just like throw, like discard, it's gonna come and destroy everything that you're building right now. And it's sad. As somebody who's had to go through that in other countries, it's sad. So please don't do it. It's a beautiful country. It's beautiful. Everyone is super friendly. Everyone is really nice. But just don't throw trash out. Keep it with you. Teach your kids not to throw it out. It took us 20 years in India to learn that. It shouldn't take 20 years over here. You gotta make believe. You gotta do this stuff. your hostel or hotel doesn't have a pool, no problem. One of the other things you can do from the Ruta de Flores is come to the thermal pools. And the thermal pools, as they say in the name, are hot spring or hot volcanic pools that are on the side of the hills along the Ruta de Flores. What you see over here is a particular set of pools called thermal pools of Alicante, or Alicante thermal pools, and there are 13 pools, 1-3, of apparently various temperatures, including a swimming pool, a couple of infinity pools, hot pools, not so hot pools, that you can come to. To enter, you gotta pay $7 as an entry fee, plus if you want to rent towels, it's $3 more, plus if you want to eat and drink, you got to pay for your food and beverages. And if, for example, you want to bring your own food and drinks over here, you got to pay an additional $8 per person. Seems reasonable, but there are small intricacies here. So the pools, they're generally quite nice. They're hot, they're reasonably in okay looking condition, but when you kind of sit in it, you realize there's a lot of floating debris. There's a lot of debris on the floor, and considering this water is coming from the volcano, kind of pools, where you can actually go and visit them as well. They're coming from the natural volcano pools from here. You're bound to get some mud and dirt and stuff like that. But overall, there's two choices. You can come here to Alicante. You can go to Santa Teresa thermal pool, which are 2 doors down. They're more expensive. They're $10 each, and they try and upsell you a little bit on their massages and face and mud treatments and saunas and stuff like that. They're not, from the photos and the videos we saw, these pools are better kind of looking. They look cleaner. The other ones are a little bit more raw, and maybe if raw is your thing, go for it. But for us, we wanted to kind of see a little bit of a clear water. There's a small hike. You can go to a mirador, to a viewpoint. There's also the Namencieto, which is basically the starting points of the pool, which is got the hot kind of steam coming from inside the earth. You can go burn your hand and stuff like that if you really want to. I've personally had enough of hikes in this trip, so you know what, I'll just believe it. Even if they're like using a gas burner to heat this water, it's fine. It's completely fine. There's lots of places to sit, and there's enough space for everybody. That's one good thing. You can have your little spot, but there's things like, you know, hammocks, but you gotta pay $3 for them. They're locked. Like I've never in my life seen a hammock with a lock and key. So this is like the El Salvadorian invention, kind of. They should patent it. How do you lock a hammock? So apparently you can have a hammock, and then you can lock it up with a lock, and that's what they've done. So if you want a hammock, you got to pay $3 more. Now I don't really have a problem paying all this money extra, but you know, it does add up, because this is quite far away from the main road. So how do you get here? You take a bus to one of the villages that's closest over here, and from there you need to either take a tuk-tuk, which is around $5 total, or you walk 20 minutes. If you're walking, there's some steep hills. It's a road, but there's some steep hills. So that's another $5-6 to come here, and $5-6 to go back. So it kind of adds up. What else? They shut at 5, so come a little bit earlier. Don't be like us. Walk in here about 2 o'clock, and then you know, just have 3 hours here. So we have 3 hours here. We'll see what it. But also, like, think about it. You know, if it's 45 degrees out in the sun, do you want to come into a pool of water that's between 45 and the temperature of the sun? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And for some people, it's like, sure, I need a new coating of my skin. I need my skin to completely burn off my body. This is the place to come. But on a serious note, the water is nice and warm. It's supposed to have healing properties. I don't think you can heal like it doesn't burn body fat, which is what I need for healing, really. But other than that, it's a good afternoon to come. Would I prioritize this over some of the other things? I don't know. I think the waterfall is, for me, better swimming experience. Here is slightly easier to get here. I don't have to exercise like I'm gonna be I don't know, trialing for a triathlon or something to get to waterfalls. So that's what I would like to say. And also, and this is something that I haven't mentioned, we haven't mentioned at all, is like you're looking around, just look at the number of mango trees, avocado trees. And if you like avocados and mangoes like me, you're like, I just need these trees in my home. Like, just move these trees. There's like a tree over here that has at least 60 avocados just together in like one branch. 60 avocados, that's a lot of avocados. I could eat guacamole for a year. So keep an eye on that.